So once there was a weaver, and this weaver, he had a brilliant name. His name was Fateh Khan, which means victorious king. But you know what? He wasn't a victorious king at all. He was a poor weaver with thin, spindly arms, thin, spindly legs, and a head that was a bit too big for his body. And all day, if you can imagine, he'd be sitting there at his loom, throwing the shuttle from one hand to the other, thinking, you know, if I just got a lucky break, I could live up to my name, Fateh Khan, victorious king. That's all I want, one lucky break. And one afternoon, well, his luck did change, because a little mosquito came, zzz, landed on his left hand while he was working at the loom. He threw the shuttle and straight away, the shuttle crushed the mosquito. And he thought, my goodness me, that's brilliant. Anybody can throw a shuttle, anybody can kill a mosquito, but to do both at the same time, that's a miracle. And he ran out into the streets. I killed it in one blow. Oh, you should have seen it. He was gone in a blow. Who have you killed? What have you done, Fateh Khan? He says, in one blow I got rid of him. Who? Should we call the police? Should we call the magistrate? No. He says, I killed him. It's finished now. Who did you kill? Him. Well, you can imagine. Everybody burst out laughing when they saw that crushed mosquito on his hand. Look at Fateh Khan. Look at Fateh Khan, the big hero, the victorious king. And off they went laughing. And the louder their laughs got, the redder his cheeks got with embarrassment. He thought, I'm not going to stay here to get insulted. I'm going to go home to my beautiful wife. Which is exactly what he did. And when he got home, she was indeed beautiful, but just as gorgeous and as fair as she was, that's how bitter and angry she was in her heart. She said, well, what do you expect? You're always boasting, you're always showing off and nattering and chattering, and not only do you embarrass yourself, but you embarrass me because I'm your wife. I wish you'd just go away so I could marry a real man. Stinging words. And Fateh Khan says, that's what I'm going to do. I will go away. But please, make me some food before I go. Oh, I'll make you some food, said his wife. I'll make you some food. So she started making some parathe. Now, normally these stuffed parathe, this stuffed bread that she would make for him, she would just put maybe a bit of salt and pepper in, but not today. Today, she put special ingredients in there. Masala, special spices, coriander, fenugreek. And she made them up, mixed them with the most delicious butter, made a pile of them. Put them in a bundle, thrust them into his chest and says, ja, go away, you stupid man, and slammed the door in his face. Well, Fateh Khan started walking with his bundle of food over his shoulder. He made his way into a forest. All day he was in that forest, and when he came out on the other end, he found himself on the edge of a kingdom, a mighty kingdom. And there was a bazaar, a market taking place. And you should have seen just the wealth and the opulence, gold and silver smiths, silks and satins, gemstones. This is the kind of place where somebody like me, Fateh Khan, he says, with a bit of luck, could make his fortune. Suddenly there was a horn blown out and all the market traders started dispersing and running away with their stalls. What's happening here? Oh, don't you know, said one of the market traders. There's that marauding elephant, he's huge. He just crushes anyone underfoot. Doesn't care if you're a young or old man or woman or a child. You better flee. And Fateh Khan thought, here's a chance for me to turn my fortunes around. So he made his way to the palace. When he got to the palace, there was these huge iron gates, and the guard was standing there with his spear. He said, let me see your king. I want to get rid of your marauding elephant. And the man looked at this strange little skinny man with spindly arms and legs and a head that was a bit too big. He said, you're going to get rid of our marauding elephant. And when he finished laughing, he says, I will. He says, you just give me a chance. So he said, go. He opened the gates, says, go and make a fool of yourself. And Fateh Khan was making his way towards the king when he looked. And there, on the edge of a fountain, having a hair oiled with fragrant oils, was the beautiful princess. Straight away, gadung, Fateh Khan fell in love. And as he approached, he said those words, you know, those Indian words that never fail. Kida soniye, which means, hello, gorgeous. And she because you see, she'd seen brave princes and handsome warriors, but this weird little man with the spindly arms and legs, he was different. Maybe I'll see you later. Bye-bye. And now he made his way to the king. Put his hands together, still respectful. Maharaj, Maharaj, he says, I've come to get rid of your huge elephant. And the king doubled up with laughter. He is getting a stitch from laughing so hard. He says, you, my favorite soldiers, my bravest warriors have failed. What are you going to do? And he says, no. He says, I'll get rid of your elephant, I promise you. He says, well, if you insist on dying, at least go to my armory. At least take a sword or a lance or a shield so I wouldn't feel as guilty at your death. And Fateh Khan said, no, Your Majesty, I don't need anything. I've got this. Dun, dun, dun. And he produced the shuttle. And the king started laughing. He says, that? You're going to kill the elephant with that? He said, oh, don't laugh. This is already killed once today. My weapon of mass destruction. Go, 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 he said. But a strange thing happened as Fateh Khan was going through the streets of that mighty kingdom. Word spread. Have you heard? Have you heard that stranger, Fateh Khan? It means victorious king. He's going to get rid of our elephant. Word spread. The crowds gathered. And as he was walking there, the whispering started. Zindabad, Fateh Khan, getting louder. Zindabad, Fateh Khan, getting louder. Zindabad, Fateh Khan, Zindabad, Fateh Khan, long live Fateh Khan. He'd finally lived up to his name. Oh, you're too kind. Thank you, beautiful lady. Zindabad, Fateh Khan, Zindabad, Fateh Khan. Flowers were being strewn in his path. Zindabad. And then silence. And suddenly the skies went black, like when an eclipse appears. He turned to look. And there behind him was the biggest, meanest elephant he had ever seen. It looked like its tusks had been specially sharpened. And what did our hero do? Turned tail and started to run as fast as his spindly legs could carry him. Well, the elephant wasn't far behind him. The earth was shaking. Huge balls of dust were being kicked up into the air. And he was going, oh, I'm going to die now. Oh, I should have kept my mouth shut. As he's running, do you remember that bundle of prati that his wife had made, all fragrant and delicious like? Fell off his shoulder. Well, the elephant smelt those beautiful fragrances, and without missing a beat, got his trunk, picked up all that food into his mouth and carried on chasing Fateh Khan. Now, here's an interesting thing. The reason why she had made those prati so special, with like special ingredients and fragrant herbs and spices, was to conceal the poison she'd put inside to get rid of her stupid husband. And the elephant's running and running and running. As Fateh Khan turns around, he takes his shuttle and he says, oh, shuttle, help me. As soon as the shuttle touched the elephant's ankle, the poison took effect and dunk, punk. That huge beast died there and then on the spot. Did you see that, said people? Dekhiya, it's a miracle. How? He just touched it and it died. By the time they all reached him, well, he was sitting on the elephant's head saying, you call this an elephant? Where I live, we have cats bigger than this. Everybody was amazed as he made his way back to the palace. And the king was really embarrassed. He says, I'm so sorry that I laughed at you, Fateh Khan. You did what all my best men, my strongest warriors could not do. Fateh Khan, what brings you to my kingdom? And Fateh Khan, sensing an opportunity once again, he said, well, Your Majesty, he says, you know, I thought I'd see the world, maybe conquer a kingdom or two. Well, the king felt a shiver down his spine. A man this brave, well, he needed to be in his camp and not in the enemy's camp. And that day, believe it or not, the king made him the captain of all his armies. And now Fateh Khan was sleeping in a beautiful apartment with silk sheets and servants to take care of everything. Life was sweet. And about 2 weeks later, well, news came that there was a vicious tiger, a man-eating tiger that was coming down from the hills into the city and gobbling up people at random, at will. And the king said, and Fateh Khan, he says, do me a favor. He says, there's this man-eating tiger. He says, it shouldn't be a problem. Not after you got rid of that huge elephant. And Fateh Khan, once again, seeing the opportunity, said, Maharaj, Your Majesty, what are you going to give me? Nothing in this life comes for free. Well, what do you want? He says, if I get rid of that tiger, I want to marry the princess. The king agreed and they shook hands. And once again, like the last time, as he was walking through the streets, Zindabad, Fateh Khan, Zindabad, Fateh Khan, Zindabad, Fateh Khan, Zindabad, Fateh Khan, too kind, Zindabad, Fateh Khan. And that was fine in the city where there was lots of people around. But when they reached the jungle, they were away from the safety, away from the comfort of all the crowds. And now everywhere they went, there was a noise, a sound, a threat. And one afternoon, they found themselves amongst these tall grasses, when suddenly they heard a low growl. And suddenly the grasses parted, and they saw a head, this big, with bright yellow eyes, a red lolloping tongue. And as soon as Fateh Khan, our hero, saw that tiger, what did he do? Turned tail, scrambled up a tree and hung there from the branches with his feet and his hands intertwined. When the soldiers saw him, they made their way back to the palace as quick as they could. They thought, if he's scared, we should be terrified. When they got back, Your Majesty, Fateh Khan is hanging up there like a bandar, like a monkey from the tree. And the king smiled. He said, good, because he didn't want him to marry his beautiful daughter, you know. He thought no man was good enough for his daughter. Meanwhile, Fateh Khan was there watching this tiger. 1 day circling the tree trunk, 2 days. And after 3 days, Fateh Khan thought, I'm going to die here of starvation anyway. So when he's asleep, I'm going to try to escape. But you know, that tiger was a sly one. So he was there pretending he was asleep, and he'd always sleep with one eye open. And Fateh Khan one afternoon, slowly making his way down from branch to branch, zigzagging quietly as he could, holding his breath. His foot was almost on the ground when the tiger went, his giant paw. Once again, he scrambled up again, and there he was now dangling and hanging, swinging like a silly monkey. And he could feel the breeze from that giant paw. And he said, why? Oh, that's going to be the end of me. But once again, luck. Because as he was hanging upside down, that shuttle that was in his pocket started slipping down, left his pocket, and as that tiger was going, into his mouth, into his belly, and killed that tiger dead on the spot. And Fateh Khan can't believe it. He thought, I didn't expect this result, but I'll definitely take it. He snapped off a branch as he made his way down, and he prodded that beast. That beast was gone. He took it by its tail, and started dragging it with all his might, dragging it all the way to the palace. And when he got there, he said to the king, he says, Your Majesty, you call this a tiger? Where I live, we've got mice bigger than this. And the king said, it's amazing, what a warrior. I've never seen a warrior like you in my life. Of course, you'll marry my daughter as I promised. It was a great wedding, a royal wedding. What else would you expect? Much celebration. And now he wasn't sleeping in apartments. Fateh Khan, the weaver, was now living in the palace with his beautiful wife, the princess. Things were great. Life was sweet. Some weeks passed, and one evening, a letter arrived at the palace, and the letter said, I am the king from the neighboring kingdom. I've surrounded your palace. You have until 10 a.m. in the morning to surrender, otherwise every man, woman, and child shall be, and you all know what means. Now, normally the king would have been stressed or fearful, but this time he wasn't, because he had Fateh Khan. So he just gently sort of nudged him awake. Fateh Khan, he says, sorry to disturb you. It's not a big problem. He says, you can do it tomorrow before breakfast, you know. He says, it's just that there's 500 armed men around the palace, you know. Just sort it out in the morning. Night, night. And off the king went. Fateh Khan was now in bed, shaking and shivering. 500 men. How could he kill 500 men? He'd had good luck, but you know, as the saying goes, a person should not push their luck too far. So he gently nudged his beautiful wife, and she woke up all beautiful and fragrant. He said, wife, he says, we're going on a trip. Where, husband? He says, I'll tell you when we get there. He says, now, but first help me with this sheet. And then took off the bed sheet and then laid it out on the ground. He says, you might want to take a few supplies with you. We never know when you might need a golden jug. So they put the golden jug in there. And, you know, you never know when a sort of bit of diamond jewelry might come in need. And all bit by bit, one by one, of course, you know what he was doing. He was gathering as much of that palace treasure as he could. And when the bundle was full, he took that corner to that corner, that corner to that corner, and with his spindly arms, over his shoulder. I don't know how he did it. Now, they knew the secret exits. That was easy. But you know, it was a moonless night. And you know what it's like on a moonless night? You cannot even see your hand in front of your face. They were walking on tiptoe as quiet as they could so they wouldn't disturb any of those soldiers. And suddenly a night bird or a bat or something just sort of fluttered and disturbed him. He thought he was being attacked and he screamed, "Ah! Back!" he said. That bundle fell down to the ground. The treasure crashed and the sound could be heard for miles. Suddenly all the soldiers woke up And in their panic, thinking they were being attacked, they started cutting and slashing, cutting and slashing, cutting and slashing in all sorts of directions. In the morning, cock-a-doodle-doo, and the sun came up and the king looked. All 500 men were dead. This is a miracle, he said. Fateh Khan, he says, I can't believe you've done such a thing. What a task, he said. How can I call myself a king when there's such a brave and virtuous and incredibly strong man like you in my kingdom? I can't. I surrender my crown to you. He slipped off his beautiful gold crown and put it on Fateh Khan's head. And the moment Fateh Khan was crowned, the first thing he did was took his shuttle. Remember that shuttle from his loom? And he hung it up on a mantelpiece. And with great pomp and ceremony, and proclamation, he said, I surrender my weapon of mass destruction, because a king doesn't need to bloody his hands in the battlefield. That's what he pays soldiers for. And he settled down to a blissful life with his princess. And you know what? They had 8 or 9 gorgeous children with chubby cheeks and chubby arms. And they grew up and had children themselves. And now Fateh Khan was an old granddad. And he had a wonderful long life. And even now, in parts of India, they talk about Fateh Khan. What an incredible man. What feats of bravery and strength. Why, he saw off a marauding elephant. He killed a man-eating tiger. Even 500 soldiers he dispatched like this without a weapon. What a hero he was. But now you know the story. You can tell everyone what really happened.